生まれてから1万回以上も眠って空を飛ぶ夢というやつをまだ一度も見たことがない。
The movie ends, and as the credits roll, I'm just tearing up. Maybe I'm crying a little bit, and I wipe my tears off, and I realize that this is what it's all about. Nothing beats staying inside your warm home on a cold winter night, watching a movie that just transports you out of your world and into someplace else. When a movie could just make you forget about your life, and it brings you into another country, another continent, and it looks nothing like your own. Maybe this place exists in those faraway mountains that you once saw as a kid. A place you're not allowed to go to. A place you're not allowed to know exists. And this is a land where just people live differently. There's no technology, there's no crime, there's no 9-to-5 desk job that you hate. This is in fact a magical place where people fly. And it's somewhere far away in China. So this isn't going to be a video about a samurai movie. Sorry to disappoint you, but I feel like during the cold winter months, I sometimes need a good adventure film. And this was one that I actually saw years ago, but I never forgot about it. And I just decided to rewatch it on this cold winter night, and it really just made me appreciate this film more so than the first time I saw it. And I think I saw its true purpose and what it was trying to say. If a movie is able to just make you forget about your life, even for 10 minutes, it's done its job. And to me, that's the true purpose of a film. So the Bird People of China released in 1998, and it was directed by Takashi Miike. As you know, Miike is a director that's known for his strange ultra-violence. And it's honestly fair to think this, because a lot of his films are like that. But I urge anyone who thinks this to watch The Bird People of China, because this is a film that has no ultra-violence, there's no blood. It does have a gangster, but most of this film is actually very calm. And you could even say it's slow, but it's not boring, because it's always interesting. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful film. It's one of those films that you hear very little about, and then you read the synopsis, and then you might get curious about it. And then you watch it and you just realize what a hidden gem it is. And it's not at all what you would expect from this director. So the film itself is about a young Japanese businessman. He's then sent to this remote Chinese village, and he's there to inspect the jade mines for his company. What I found interesting is the way this movie begins. It's almost like the beginning of Fight Club. This is where the protagonist is just shown to have this perfect, normal, and kind of boring life. And it just kind of just shows him going through the motions. And then a character is thrown into his life to change everything. Instead of meeting Tyler, the main character in this film meets this middle-aged Yakuza man. And this gangster Yakuza guy is really just there to ensure that the businessman's company's debt is paid off. And this character is actually my favorite. I feel like he brings most of the comedy and the much needed chaos to the story. And because the characters are both so different, they both clash together just perfectly. The business guy is just a normal character, and the Yakuza guy is just this hot-tempered and wild man. Actually, the two of these characters kind of remind me a lot of the Uncharted series. Both Nate and Sully were a lot like these guys. Two different characters with two different ages, two different personalities. And actually, the first half of the film is where all the comedy is. It's just this hilariously bad journey to find this remote village in the middle of China. And like, as beautiful as China is, it's equally as crappy looking in parts. And you could just tell it was actually shot on location. It feels very authentic. And actually, on this viewing, I was pretty surprised just by how long and how much of the movie is the actual journey to get to the village. I remember it being much shorter for some reason, but it does just really make you feel like this hidden part of the world is just really hard to get to, and it can take days and days. But the film not only chronicles just a colorful journey, but it also taps into the character's psyche. And as they reach the village and just suddenly find themselves trapped there, these two almost desperate men find themselves in this enchanted and magical place. And it's really the gangster guy's story that touches me the most. He's a pain in the ass the entire journey, but once he actually gets to the village, he falls in love with it. It's the complete opposite of the violent gangster life that he knows back home. I won't give away too much more of the story just because you really should watch this film. I highly recommend it. Miike injects just so much magical realism into this one story. You really have to see it. The movie is actually based on a novel by Makoto Shina, and he just pretty much thought up the story while he was just having a beer one afternoon. He then started to just imagine going to China and meeting a beautiful girl who flew like a bird. The writer of the novel never actually went to China or visited the village, especially like the one in the movie. It was his pure imagination, and it's almost like a story that a child would think of. I think it's just pretty impressive that an adult can have just this kind of imagination. Though when actually trying to film the world that Shina created in the book, Miike didn't really have the budget. So he ended up picking a place that looked the closest to this, and that ended up being Yunnan, China. Something to note is that this story was created during a time period before the rapid economic growth of China. And this was during a time when the atmosphere was that anything can happen there. At the time, China just had this kind of mystical feeling about it. And it was a feeling of discovery that the Japanese people were drawn to. Miike actually describes in the DVD extra on the making of the film on just how Japanese people long for and admire large continents. And this is pretty much because they live on a small island. And it was believed during that time that an extraordinary bunch of people lived out in China in those remote villages. And to me, whenever I hear this, I just think of the game Shenmue. In that story, a character from Japan ventures out into China, but eventually we get to the country parts of Guilin, and it actually looks a lot like this film. So you actually know the creators of that game actually visited China to see that, and it has that same kind of mystical feeling as this movie. China is just no doubt an incredible place, and the country part especially can just really make your imagination run wild. In fact, I've actually met people that have journeyed there after playing Shenmue, and maybe they saw this movie too. It definitely makes me want to go there, just especially during these gray, cold winter months. The film is very much about our need to dream, but it also tackles some other issues like technology and just invading other civilizations, but also just the importance of keeping some places preserved and innocent, no matter how valuable that land may be. What I like is it doesn't pull a Hollywood where it just gives you one point of view and that's it. Instead, it shows the good and bad to everything. For example, it's brought up how nice the village is without technology, but it's also brought up how a villager became deaf due to not getting medical treatment. So, if you like adventure films with beautiful nature scenery, then do yourself a favor and check this one out. You won't be disappointed. You'll feel like you entered into this new world. Also, if you think that Takashi Miike can only make gory shock films, then I also recommend seeing this. You'll change your mind real fast. So this movie's pretty easy to find. I think I got mine on eBay for a decent price. There is no Blu-ray yet, which is disappointing because I feel like this would look amazing. But if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to support the channel, you could check out my Patreon. And like always, thanks for watching.